So today I'd like to talk about 4 ways that we can work through our emotional wounds, and also a little bit about what emotional wounds are. A lot of times I found that people think certain things in their life are not a form of trauma because it wasn't a physical trauma, when it was actually an emotional trauma. But they don't seem to identify with the emotional trauma as an actual trauma. So things like loss of home, right? If you lost your home and you're now fearing for your shelter and you're struggling with what to do, could be anything tied to rejection, anything tied to abandonment, feeling unloved. If it was, verbal bullying, for example, any of these things that are stress events that cause you to have this emotional wound will cause you to have other different types of limiting beliefs about yourself. And those beliefs are part of the problem, because what happens is people will manifest those into things like depression, anxiety. They will do coping mechanisms with drugs and alcohol to try to get rid of the pain tied to their emotional wounds. And so that's a problem, right? That's a problem because we feel the need to get validated. So what we can do is a couple things. The first is to recognize your wound when it's happening. Recognizing either a situation that's triggering it, or recognize the wound itself that happened as a child. The second thing that you can do is validate your pain. A lot of times we try to push it off. Oh, it didn't happen. It wasn't that bad. Or other people had it worse, right? And we use a justification of somebody else's wound and a barometer as far as saying, well, should I really feel as if this is a bad wound or not, right? Worse things happen to worse people, so I need to be quiet. But that actually doesn't do ourselves any justice. The third thing that you can do in this is consciously let go of your pain. That's a hard one. It's a real hard one. When you have these wounds that were formed in childhood, you end up having this space of repeating that trauma in different scenarios as you get older. And you also find yourself attracting the same kind of situations as you dealt with as a child. A lot of the stuff is wrapped up in your subconscious programming and how your mind perceives things, and also how you gravitate towards things. So if you were treated poorly as a child, then most likely your relationships are going to be with people that don't treat you well. So consciously letting go of your pain is saying, I'm going to validate that I had a trauma. I'm going to validate that I had some pain. And then the fourth thing, which is the hardest of them all, is to start making either different choices, different decisions, or different thoughts. That part of it is hard because we are so wrapped up in routine and habits for how we respond to things, that it requires us in the moment that we're getting triggered for something, for us to say, I'm going to operate differently. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to think something differently. I'm going to try and feel something differently. And that's the tricky part. But if you catch yourself in the moment where you are experiencing your wound kind of opening again, that's the moment of self-awareness for you to take a look at. I think it's important that everybody understands, your traumas are very real to you. They're very real to you. And, what you feel is valid. And you're allowed to feel it, no matter what that feeling is. My hope is that, everybody can find their way through problems, and that they can also, work through the emotional wounding, that they've gone through. Whether you were at home, as a child and you felt unloved, and therefore you almost have this, reflexive need to feel loved as an adult, and so you're desperately seeking who's going to give me that attention because you didn't have that attention when you were younger. It could be something where you could have a scarcity mindset of maybe you didn't have a lot of food growing up because maybe you were poor. And now as an adult, you end up overeating because of that scarcity mindset. It's kind of a catch-22 where, well, now I have food, and so I want to eat it, and I can't eat it. And then you start finding that you have eating problems because you don't have a healthy relationship with food, tied to, the problems that you had as a youth. So there's different things that happen, including even like body image, It could be that whether it was a food thing with body image or whether it was being bullied, at school, or maybe you just didn't like your own self because you were comparing yourself to your older sister or, somebody else that you thought was, beautiful or thin or, whatever it was. And you look at yourself in the mirror and say, but I'm not that. So it's important that we try to find a way to stop comparing our wounds, stop comparing ourselves to other people. And one of the ways I try to frame things with people is to look at this as your avatar. Okay, you have your soul and then you have your avatar, and our avatars change from lifetime to lifetime, and sometimes they're pretty and sometimes they're not pretty. Sometimes reasons for them not being pretty, and sometimes when you look at it, you designed it to some degree for whatever reason, but you can also make a lot of changes. And I'm somebody that believes if there's something about you physically that you don't like, that you look in the mirror and say, I just can't deal with this. If that's something that you have the ability to change, no matter what the change is, but you have the ability to change, then change it. If you know that's going to give you peace of mind, then change it. People have nose jobs because they really don't like how their nose looks. People apparently, tape their ears back because, they'll have like Dumbo ears or something. There's just different things that, people have, and we live in this society, right, where everybody's judging us based on our looks, which is unfortunate, really, really unfortunate. So if there is something you can do that makes you feel better, that makes you feel whole, that makes you release that pain, then do it. And if it's something that you have to work at, then set goals for it. Set goals, work at it, and see what your successes are. And then one day you get to see that transformation for yourself, and you get to say, wow, look at what I did. Look at what I accomplished. Now I feel good. I feel like I match what I see in the mirror. And I think those things are all important and really healthy. So as far as the wounds, recognize the wounds, which is number 1. 2, validate your pain. 3, consciously let go. And 4, make different decisions and choices or thoughts. And then repeat. That's the key. And what I will tell you is, the more that you lean into it, the more you will start finding those moments where you're recognizing it's happening as it's happening, and you'll be able to catch yourself. It doesn't just happen automatically. Usually it happens and you're like, oh, I wish I would have blah. And then the next time, maybe you get to that moment a little quicker, like, oh, this is happening. Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me back off a bit. And then you get to a point where you're starting to feel that way and you're like, no, we talked about this. We're going to pull this back, do something different, think differently, feel differently. Remember, we're going to go take a walk. We're going to say something different. And so those little progress points is how you start to, learn to move past some of your emotional wounds. So I really hope that, this helps. If you are stuck on any limiting beliefs, then I definitely say, reach out and either take a look at my self-help course, which is specific around helping a general mindset and making those general mindset changes, but in a way that you can do it without feeling shame yourself. And otherwise, you can do one-on-one sessions with me if that's, what you would prefer. And then obviously, watch my YouTube channel. for more episodes like this. And yeah, that's it. So